Rein in check your microaggressions, bro. Okay, so we're gonna get started in just a second. You guys have any preamble business?
I do think in general we should probably keep our preambles shorter than we have been doing.
So this is the 135th time we've had this conversation.
No, but I mean, instead of trying to actively have one, because there's been some
I know.
Being that we've had specific feedback of just get to the topic sooner, and then sometimes I've listened to somebody we went on for way too long.
Actually, one that jumps to mind is I listened to the Jobs one recently, which is one of our all-time longest episodes. Actually, a really good episode. And Mike, you mentioned though in the verdicts, I think, that it took us time to warm up or whatever. So
in that one,
so it's funny because we have this essentially fairly long preamble that was one of our more painful ones, I thought, and then we had a warm up period,
and then it started getting interesting,
and then it got really good. So if it's an hour and 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes are probably not great.
Yeah.
But then you have a solid hour of pretty good shit at the end, and
it got interesting that one. It really did.
But it's annoying that partly that I could see me recommending that episode to somebody, and they'd be like, okay, this not even
that one to someone, and then I listened to it, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of I thought to myself, I hope they make it through all this preamble shit to when it gets interesting.
Me recommending that episode to
whoa.
So apparently, there's a friend of mine. Apparently, he's listened to 3 episodes already. I was like, oh.
Some people it's a mixed bag because I will say what we do on Core is pretty much all preamble. We just kind of throw it out there and start talking, and we just go.
Yeah, but
people
Scott
do like that stuff.
He directs you.
Yeah, it's not preamble. It's all core stuff. You immediately start by talking about a topic. It literally the episodes I've listened to kick off. You're right in there, and then there's no.
Actually,
and then
never mind. I made a mistake. In what I said.
You're exactly wrong, Bo.
I mean, it's true.
Listen to your show, Bo. Don't try that shit.
It just feels pretty fluid, but it's because we planned the show ahead of time. We don't plan this one. Maybe that's why. Okay. That's not meant to be maybe we should plan this show comment. Just retweet the tweet. I just sent out a tweet
we should just set a base limit of maybe I should do it because I'm the only one with discipline here.
You've been pretty on top of being anyways, let's do a topic, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I find Mike just loves getting the last word in, so because he's always got to have the last word, then it just keeps making it go longer and longer.
No, that's possibly true. But maybe I should just set a timer for myself here of 5 minutes. Is 5 minutes adequate to do the intro, a little bit of how you doing, and then...
Yes. Yeah. It's way, way, way shorter than I think we normally do it, but I think it's adequate.
I think we're going to be fine. I'll keep us on topic, probably. It is nice.
You never do.
It is nice to do a bit of the introductions, though,
because someone will come up about acting or something, and you'll get lost. You can't be trusted. I'm just going to keep an eye on it, and when it gets between 5 and 10 minutes, somewhere therein, when there's an opportunity, i.e. when I have the last word, then I'll chime in.
Okay. All right, I'm going then. You guys ready to go?
Yes.
Didn't you tell me to retweet some? Oh, yeah.
Well, for fuck's sake. All right.
I always mute.
Yeah, you always mute, and then you leave it muted.
Thing. For frick.
Actually, my camera's not on, so you can't see me mime talking.
So when's the camera coming back?
Because you're a noob.
All right. Will the camera
here? Maybe let's restart the call.
So I'm crossing my fingers for big.
Are we restarting the call?
Well, I don't know. I can't. My video thing, I click it, nothing happens.
All right, I'm restarting the call. Bye, Crofton. Bye, Mike. Oh my God, my co-hosts do not know how to use Skype.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So, Bo, you got my voice message?
I did, yeah. Well, I didn't listen all the way to the end because it was just hi, I'm leaving you a voice message because you were supposed to answer, but you did. It was very,
Yeah, well, I didn't know what to expect. I'm it's just Skype. Why am I
feel like I just went back in time.
I know.
Hello.
It's like a Philip K. Dick novel in your...
Pants?
By the way, okay, just... Hello and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast, where conversation is the foundation of higher thought with like random topics and unlimited opinion and great conversation. Joining me, Bo Schwartz, as always, my partners in crime. Partner in crime numero uno, Monsieur Michael Hudgens. Bonjour, Michael.
I do believe your intros are getting more like bombastic every episode.
It's true. I'm slowly turning into a caricature of myself.
You're slowly turning into a morning radio host.
Hello!
Hey, everybody, welcome to the show!
Without any more delay, we have to introduce the second partner in crime. Crofton, the intern! Crofton!
Hey guys! Well, thanks for having me on the show. What?
Michael, I think Crofton would like to go outside and wave to people. Because he's crazy!
I'm gonna play a honking noise.
I haven't listened to radio in so long. What do they get interns to do these days?
I think you're just thinking of that one...
Eric the intern from The
from
Bear?
that one video.
The Bear 105.2.
It's 106.9.
Nerd!
And I think they're on a different radio station.
You listen to The Bear. Busted.
It's kind of obnoxious. To be a radio host is to... Yeah. I don't know,
but it's to bring high energy. Like everyone, you know how you can spoof different radio hosts, like somebody who's doing like talk. Mike, when he ever does an intro, he's like essentially doing like a CBC talk radio style host. You can those NPR in the States. Everybody does like spoofs of those different hosts on Parks and Recreation, which is a funny show. They have a host like somebody in the douche, which is like
it's Billy and the douche. He's like, hi,
which is the bombastic show, and then they have the guy who does the voice of Homer Simpson on The Simpsons, Dan Castanella, doing like the NPR talk show, and they always talk ridiculously
slow and
that way.
Monotone.
You're catering to your listener. Like if you're listening to a morning show, you kind of want to wake up and you want energy, and I'm learning to be more forgiving of that, even if I choose not to listen to it. But
I guess so. I mean, I know energy, but it's like it's also when you wake up in the morning, I feel like you're primed to be irritated, especially if you're like a coffee drinker. You wake up and you're like, I just want to get on with my day, and someone's like making... Mostly it's the bad jokes that they all laugh hysterically at. I'm like, they're not even funny.
You're the CBC talk radio, or if you're in the States, the NPR listener. Tonight at 5, we're going to discuss the process of making bread. Organic bread with Tom Meadow. That's
We've obviously never listened to CBC mostly during the day. It's mostly newsy... Anyway,
it's mostly stuff for smart people. That's what Mike's trying to point out, and what Crofton was trying to defend was for idiots. Like, I like Monster drink and rock and roll.
I agree. There is a certain amount, but I think it's more like public access radio, where it's like, and this weekend's birdwatching central series, we'll be looking at the northern blue-throated sparrow.
Well. All right, I'm going to cut you off there. This is why we do a podcast and why we advocate podcasts, because I'll tell you what, there's tons of bird watching podcasts out there. For any niche that you love listening to, there is a podcast out there for you. And we have our little niche.
Stop popping all the bird watching podcasts. They haven't paid us for advertising, right?
It's grassroots community support. I bet you there's a bird watching podcast out there that's like... Podcasts are great because, yes, we can do this bird-watching podcast, but you know what? There's also great debate podcasts like Good, Bad, or Bullshit out there, and we're thankful.
They're not saying that, I guarantee you.
Rick D's in the weekly top 40.
Oh, wow. You should be an announcer, dude. A swing announcer. I've looked at job postings for that. They're called swing announcers. I don't know why the word
that
swing
job
is in
wording, that job's not what you think it is.
And you could never be a radio host, Bo, because they work crazy hours. Like, you could be up at 4 in the morning and get someplace. Like, you could not do it.
I've been getting up at 4 in the morning all week. I totally nailed it.
It's not going to last. I know you.
Okay,
Speaking of things it's not going to last, segue.
Wow. I give that a segue 3.
Diesel-powered random topic generator.
Talk it
primed and ready to go.
All right, well, it's up to you. You ready to go, Mike? Pull it there.
Yep.
You ready to go there, Mike? Pull it. Bo Schwartz is more than familiar with St. Mike Hodgins.
What does the random topic generator have for us this week on our good, bad, or bullshit adventure?
Today, random topic generator has given us the topic of adventure racing.
Adventure.
Actually, it's kind of a catch-all. I'm going to stop doing my NPR voice. It's kind of a catch-all. It's adventure racing slash like Spartan race, Tough Mudder races. I don't know. Those are like particular brands.
So does the Amazing Race qualify as a televised version of what we're talking about?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it is because it's a TV show. Like, not anyone can just go and do, the
What
Amazing
about those
Race.
Eco Challenge races?
Yeah, there's one. Well, I don't know. I don't know what that is, I guess.
When we were in Mexico that time...
That was an adventure race.
Yeah, well, it was called like the Eco Challenge or something.
Yeah, that just had a name. I think that adventure races are how they're different from like the Amazing Race, being the show you apply, put a video together and hopefully you get accepted. I think these other ones, anyone can go. Like us three, we could make like a team or something like that and say we're going to do this adventure race and then come in dead last. That's what would happen if the three of us made a team.
I wouldn't make it. It'd just be the two of you coming in.
Yeah, well,
I would eat you.
What would happen is we would cross the finish line. I'd be carrying Crofton on my back, and then be like, "What happened to the guy? Like, he died about 5K in, and
I got dysentery."
I'd have his arm in my hand, and I'm in my mouth eating it still while Mike's carrying me.
I prefer the idea that I don't die, and rather that I just become a wild Yeti man, a Sam Squatch out in the wild.
There's no technology for you there. You wouldn't survive.
Well, that's it. I go primal. I'd be all feral.
Okay, so
what is adventure? I still can't. I'm like the listener who may be listening, who's like, "What the hell is adventure racing?"
So okay, adventure. There's a slight difference between adventure racing and I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I mean,
give me the broad stroke basic ABCs.
They're like obstacle courses that are races, but longer ones and kind of like for adults. So the Spartan / Tough Mudder race is more like an obstacle race. You could do it in like a couple of hours and have things like you got to climb up big fences, crawl under barbed wire in the mud, run up a giant hill, like go over some tightrope thing. It's got all these obstacles which are hard to do, involve you often getting filthy, dirty, and it's all a race with other. You're kind of a team.
How long does it last? Because to me, an adventure should be
you asked me to explain it.
Well, I told you the broad strokes. You're giving me like a encyclopedia entry here.
I just tried to tell you what the difference. Okay, so that's like the Tough Mudder sort of Spartan race, which these things are getting bigger. They're all over the place now. And the adventure race are much longer ones where they're often like quite like, the outdoor adventure enthusiasts would be into this, where it has like, say, it has an orienteering component, maybe a rock climbing component, canoeing, mountain biking, and just general like hiking stuff. And you have to cover like maybe 200 kilometers, and you can do it as fast as, the faster you can do it, the better. So those ones take, they'll take 24 straight hours to do, and people will stay up the whole time, or they'll sleep for like 2 hours. It's really intense.
None of these like last for weeks. Isn't there one that's
as far as I know, the longest ones take maybe like 3 days or something. But I mean, you finish them in like 20 some hours. Like they're long, but these people are going. They're going on 2 hours sleep a night when they do them. Those are the adventure races, and they're pretty intense.
Okay. Wow.
I know that there's this girl that I worked with at a previous job who was into doing the Spartan race, which is like essentially, as Mike said, a couple of hour thing, and you do it with a big group, and yes, you're in competition with one another, but generally what you're most trying to do is finish, because as Mike says, it's so hard. You're doing all these really difficult tasks, and you're pushing your body and all that. And so she said it was a very encouraging atmosphere, in that like they'd be going up a hill, and you're not trying to blow out the next person. You're essentially competing against yourself, either to finish it or to beat a time that you had previously set or something like that. So I mean, it seemed like more something that people who are in crazy shape do, as like a communal activity. It'd be like, my interests include working out, doing tons of exercise. How can I turn that into a weekend activity? Oh, I know, Spartan race.
And often it's interesting when you look at I'm always seeing sort of ads for these things on, I don't know, the internet or other places, and it always shows often it's a dude with giant muscles who is covered in head to toe in mud with some intense look on his face. And often they do show like what Crofton was describing, where it's like someone climbing up a wall, someone with giant muscles climbing up a wall, and with their hand down, helping another person with giant muscles also get up the wall. So it is like, you kind of work with other people to get through the obstacles as well. But yeah,
It's like, Bo, it's like those training camps you see in movies for the army, and I'm sure the army do in real life. When they're going along the ground and then they climb up a wall, the one that Captain America couldn't climb when he was only 90 pounds before he had the super serum.
I thank you both. I think I have a sense of what it is. It's like,
plus you were Googling, I could hear it.
A real oh really? A real adventure would take months to have. Like, the idea that it's adventure, you can have an adventure in 24 hours seems like, touristic, I guess. And I think the way you describe it, it sounds like the idea where you're fitting in all these different activities in the race that would be rigorous, even if you did them for an extended period of time. Like, Mike, I know you went on a big kayaking trip that lasted several weeks, right? Just kayaking. Or I just say
it was canoeing.
It was canoeing, but you spent that trip doing that thing, and it was an adventure, and it was not easy, and it took time. Whereas, like, if I said, well, do that trip in like 24 hours and make it a race, seems kind of like dumb.
Stupid.
Yeah, I was just
going to say,
why don't you just go on a real adventure? And
I would just say you can't. First of all, you can't enroll in an adventure.
I agree.
Doesn't work.
But I agree in the same way that I think that Mike's thing wasn't an adventure either.
Right.
In the same, it's like, well, it may have been, but you may consider it that, but it's the exact same thing as enrolling in something that's an adventure. It's like, I'm choosing to go on some trip, and it's
well, he had a quest. He had a quest, and the quest was simple. It was to get from point A to point B. I mean, Gandalf can't show up for all of us and give us a ring to bear across.
No, but like, why I would say, okay, wait, I just want to jump in. I know I talked of, not that anyone's going to go listen to the camping podcast where I described this big trip I went on. The reason it was an adventure was because it did not go as planned. We were stranded with a broken canoe in the middle of nowhere for multiple days and had to fix the canoe.
But that could have happened during an adventure race.
Yeah, it could have, except you have support. We had zero support. Like, that's what's different. If you take an adventure race, there are medics there. There are people to deal with any kind of problem that happens, and then you just stop the race, and you're like, okay, things have gone wrong. Here you go. And I've done like little triathlons before, and they're fun to do, but they're not an adventure. It's a very controlled. There are people there. There's all kinds of volunteers making it happen and run smoothly. So that, to me, there's no way that could ever be a quote-unquote adventure because it is closely monitored and
for sure it's a branding exercise in the sense that they use this term. But there are two different things. Like, I'm not talking about the Spartan race, the day, like, exercise races, like, in terms of adventure. I'm talking about those 3-day things where they get 2 hours of sleep each night, and I agree, like, they do get some level of support there, but I think just because you get support doesn't mean it's not an adventure. Like, using Bo's Lord of the Rings reference, just because the hobbits had Gandalf and Aragorn didn't make it any less of an adventure for them. But at the same point, like, I take your point that there are levels of adventure, like going from being in the middle of the woods to having no support or whatever to having like some sort of support is probably a greater adventure.
Well, hang on. Quickly, adventures have adversity, whether from like an actual antagonist, like you're being hunted by a killer in an urban environment, or you are just trying to travail a course through nature and and nature attempts to bring you down, and the various events and happenstance that can happen when you don't have immediate, a yellow pages where you can call somebody or the internet to solve all your problems if you get really stuck. Well, it's that adversity that's what builds your character, as cheesy dad would say.
Yeah, and also opponents and antagonists, which you have in one of these races that you don't necessarily have when you just go in the woods by yourself.
Well, what's the adversity in a compressed race versus a real adventure?
Well, and nature, if you're fighting something like nature, that's a pretty big adversary. If you're on your own, if you have support, it's kind of eliminated. I was just going to say that I have some limited experience with adventure racing. I've never participated in one, but back in my whitewater rafting guide days, which were a long time ago, I did safety for an adventure race that was happening, and it was like a couple-day event. And because I was experienced in whitewater, me and a few other people got coerced to volunteer, where we just hung out by this one tough rapid, which is the hardest rapid they had to go down, and we were just there for safety and rescue, and it all worked out fine. But I mean, if it was an adventure, you'd be like, you go down the rapid and things go wrong, you got to deal with it yourself. There's not like some whack rafting guide waiting there for you.
Again, I think it's just there are differing degrees, but if and it is a branding exercise in the sense that you call if going down Whitewater Rapids, and I remember the Mexican village we were in that was having this
that was a different one, because
but still, that, I'm using that one as an example. That was a no offense to that Mexican village, it was a ghetto Mexican village,
wow,
they had
offense taken.
Really, it was
having this.
Whoa.
They had we were far away from getting into town or whatever. They had they had limited compared to first world type situations. They had a very limited amount of stuff, and to go if you go skydiving, if you go bungee jumping, if you go whitewater rafting, all those things are supervised, controlled. They're to ensure that you don't get injured, but they are, people look at them as adventures, and to a certain extent that they are. Throwing yourself out of a plane, even though you're attached with someone and have certain safety and security controls, is still somebody's idea of an adventure. And that's what I think about adventures. They're very flexible and can be defined by the person and related to the person who goes on them. For one, I generally believe, for me, adventures are more random occurrences as opposed to something that you go out and seek, like adventure seekers. But
well, I mean, I tend to agree with that. And aside from it being a branding thing, and the fact that we're not reviewing adventures today, but rather these types of races.
But wouldn't that be amazing?
What?
I'd like to do adventures one day. Anyways, continue. Sorry. I said, wouldn't it be amazing? I think it's a great idea. Adventures are good.
Probably they're bad. If you actually thought about adventures, it's usually when stuff doesn't go the way you plan. But anyways, back to these things. It's kind of well, so why do people do them? And Crofton mentioned a couple other things that fit into that category of whitewater rafting, skydiving, things like that. And I wouldn't consider those adventures personally, though. But the reason, and I've done those things, the reason I've done it, because they're a lot of fun. You have a lot of fun doing it. And you look at the kind of Tough Mudder thing and the grueling adventure race, and I can see that they probably provide you with this sense of achievement, but they don't look necessarily fun. I mean, now I used to be into kind of racing stuff, and I can understand really pushing yourself, and that feels good to some extent. But particularly to be crawling through boggy mud under it's just they will make mud bogs for the express purpose of you crawling through, and it's kind of is that fun? I'm I don't know. I mean, maybe an excuse to get dirty is just sort of fun, I guess. But really, they're exercising grueling activity. And I mean, to call that fun is a bit of a stretch. It's almost a bit masochistic. So why, aside from the achievement one might feel after completing one, why people do these things?
And I agree 100% with that. And I would throw in Ironman competitions and marathons and stuff like that as the same sort of deal. And this feels like sort of a good counterpoint to our episode on camping, where I made it very clear how much I don't like testing my limits through pain and endurance, especially of the optional nature. And so this is a clear-cut example of that. I can understand their appeal, honestly, for a certain segment of the population. And I'm interested in having adventures and stuff, but like this is not the type of adventure that I'm looking to have. So, I mean, for me, it's not personally appealing.
So Crofton would not do a Spartan Tough Mudder or adventure race.
I would not.
What do you?
Yeah. Well, what adventure do you ever really want that you're prepared for? It's a real test of character, but so I think what I understand about what Crofton's saying is that he's not interested in manufacturing adventure.
I'm
asking these specific races. Would you do one?
Oh, hell no. Because okay. So we made a little joke about how, like, joking about rating just adventures, because this is adventure racing. The other word in this 2-word topic is racing. And I think, now, I like competitions and competitiveness, and I'm not super into sports, but, like, I see its appeal and why it's fun and why people really work hard at it. Racing is one of those things that is so weird to me, because like when I watch racing in the Olympics and stuff, it's always like, who is the most well-trained superhuman runner? Like, there isn't a lot of strategic depth to it. It's just practice and hone your weapon of a body. So like adventure racing to me is like, well, let's take that and add a bunch of obstacles. Like, it's just racing. It's just harder. It's just more rigorous, harder, multidisciplinary racing. And so I'm not into racing. I can barely, walk at a brisk pace for more than 10 minutes. It's just not my cup of tea. So I don't know.
It is interesting, the racing component, because as I mentioned earlier from the lady I talked to who did the Spartan race, like, she really didn't think about it much as a race in as much as she thought about it as a personal challenge. And again, the race part is not just a branding exercise, but the top teams in these activities are probably very, like, they're vying for first and all that, but there's a lot of them that are just like, I'm looking to finish, and you see that with marathons too. You're like, I just, I finished. If I can finish it, I'll be happy, or if I can beat my personal best or whatever, I'll be happy. And so I think that there's a lot of that in these types of activities. Yeah, like, I don't begrudge, like, I know all three of us, and Mike is the only one of the three of us that I could see having a legitimate interest in participating in one of these things. But that doesn't mean I begrudge their existence for other people. I think that it's cool that they're out there.
Yeah, and the racing aspect, I'm glad we got to this point because it's a big part of it, is interesting. And there definitely was a time in my life where I would have been, if they had been bigger at the time, I would have been like, yeah, for sure, I would have been into this. When I was younger, I was a lot more competitive, and I would do, like, I have done triathlons, like shorter ones, and some running foot races, as it were. But as I get older, maybe this is just, me personally or whatever, but the whole competition aspect and racing aspect is sort of, it doesn't appeal to me that much, because it often brings out, I think, like, I mean, as much as they show, like, these kind of help out your fellow competitor, the reality of competition is you're trying to beat other people. And I find anytime I still do competitive stuff, I don't do much of it anymore, it brings out negative aspects in me, aspects I don't like when I'm trying to win. And generally I don't like that component of myself, the competitive stuff. So as I get older, I am less inclined to do these types of race activities, because frankly, all of these things would appeal to me separately. Like, if you looked at an adventure race where you said, okay, you mountain bike for 50 kilometers, and you canoe down a river, and then you rappel down this giant cliff, and then you do it, and you hike through the jungle, and you say that's a thing to do, and they're like, and you have to do it in 2 days. My response would be like, but why would you do it in 2 days? Like, it would be probably super fun to do it over the course of a week and a half. You could enjoy the pacing of it and see all these wonderful things.
So I need to interrupt there, because I've been wanting to say this for a while. It's like, if you're not racing when you're adventure racing, then you're just doing an adventure. Like, it seems dumb if you go to a race to not race.
Well, but the thing is, that's the whole point. Why are you doing it as a race? Like, if you want, when I think of doing these, going, and I'm someone who likes to go out into nature, and I spend a lot of time kind of hiking around in the woods and clambering around on cliffs and stuff by myself, where, if something went wrong, I would just be dead. And I still do that from time to time. Maybe I don't take as many risks as I used to, but I'll just go and do that because that's what's appealing about that kind of thing. You never know what you might find, or you might get into some weird situation or lose your way for a bit. And that's what's interesting about that. To me, this whole enrolling in, and
it's like that time I wandered around Montreal till 7 a.m. It was an adventure.
Not quite.
Look, let me put this in language Bo can understand. Okay, so Bo, in video games, there's games where you play against other people and you beat them, and you climb up ranking ladders and all this sort of stuff. But then there's video games where you have leaderboards that just you play it by yourself.
Crofton, I know what a race is, for fuck's sake.
You go up the leader. No, you're not understanding. I'm explaining something to you and you're not listening. I'm even using your language, for Christ's sake. So you climb up the leaderboard and you can beat other people, but you're mostly, like in golf, which I didn't use as an example for you, you can play against your best score, even though you're not beating everybody else. It's like if you've done a race, an adventure race, before, you can do it again and then try and beat your score, beat your time, or just finishing it. Like if it's a really tough video game, like say Dark Souls, finishing it is a challenge.
But then you're racing. What I'm saying is, if you're just taking your time, you're not racing.
No, you're racing against yourself.
Well, if you are doing that, then you are. But if you are just going just to do it, then what does the time limit matter?
It doesn't necessarily. A lot of people don't take the time limit seriously in these things. They just need to finish. So, look at marathoners. There's a bunch of people that finish like hours after the first place people, and are just like walking across the end of the line, and they're like, "I did it."
Marathons aren't really races, though, are they?
Yes, there are pure
the exact
races,
same way adventure races.
It's just a bunch of people running for a long time.
Yes,
it's not a race. You know what? I don't ratify marathons. The Republic of Bo. I'm Russian. I'm Vladimir Putin. Remember last episode?
Okay, but
Russia does not recognize marathons as races.
It is an interesting. Maybe what people like about the adventure racing. So if you like racing, if you're like, I would like to run a marathon and compete with people, and that's great. I can see that there's more a strategic component to something like adventure racing, where you have a team, some have stronger skills. There's more of a strategic element where you can plan your own route. I can see the appeal of that, but I just find it adds this element of like pressure and franticness to what would otherwise be, I think, an enriching experience. The Tough Mudder is a bit different because it's such a short time frame. Like, you're doing it, you know what it is, you're just going to get dirty and filthy and push yourself hard for a short period. But these adventure races just feel like wasted opportunities in nature to me.
Well, you're going to be in that area anyways. Like, you travel there, you can stay there extra days if you want more of an experience. And I understand what you're saying, and that's for you personally. You want a leisurely stroll. But a lot of people want that adrenaline. They want the adrenaline of being in there and like facing that time crunch and all that.
Oh, well, we lost.
Leisure.
We lost all of that. Sorry, Crofton.
Oh, where do you need me to repeat from?
Right from the beginning of when you started talking.
No, because Mike and I were talking back and forth there for a while.
You were dropping. Well, okay. Let me stop the recording and let's see.
Period. But these adventure races just feel like wasted opportunities.
Stay there extra days if the adrenaline of being in there and like facing that time crunch and all that.
It said time crunch.
Yeah, I was right. I said time crunch.
Sweet. Oh, good. Bo was wrong. All right. I will go again from time crunch. Facing that time crunch and feeling the adrenaline flowing, and it has an inherent appeal for people that search for that sort of competitive aspect, that drive. But there's other people who like a more sort of leisure pace. I'm definitely one of them, and so for me, it's not appealing personally, but again, I find myself glad that this sort of thing exists. That there is a channel for people who want to push themselves and want to explore this type of competition, both amongst their peers and people who have this interest, maybe similar. Like you'd be doing it, you meet a bunch of people. It's the same faces. I remember when Mike and I were in Mexico, a lot of these teams knew each other, right? And they had their sort of friendly competition amongst each other and would have drinks and such. And then so for these people, it's absolutely fantastic. And just because I don't like a hobby or whatever, it's not something that I would necessarily wipe off the face of the earth.
The teamwork aspect, because this adventure racing is done in teams predominantly, if not always.
Adventure racing, pretty much, yeah.
So, I do find the teamwork aspect of the group ones, I mean, that has an appeal. It's fun to do things with friends, and if you all share an interest in the outdoors, maybe work for a living and can only afford 1 or 2 days to do something kind of cool, and you, there's doing things with friends like hanging out and, I don't know, going to the bush or going to a bar, and then there's, accomplishing things with people that you can't accomplish on your own. That, collaborating with others and working on a thing that's greater than the sum of your parts. And I could see that adventure racing might, depending, because I'm very foggy on the kinds of obstacles, but I don't know, if all 4 people had to ride on one horse and make it work, that seems like something they'd have to practice in drills before going to the race and then execute properly on the day. I know what I said sounds ridiculous.
Like, poor horse.
Well, or I don't know, if they had to make an even ladder to climb up a rock face or something. I don't know.
Even using that rapids example from earlier, you need to work as a team to go through rapids, and it is cool. If we were on a team, we'd each have different roles. Mike would build the shelter and navigate the rapids,
I'd be reminding us when it's important to take breaks so that we don't exhaust ourselves.
Bo would be our break manager, and he would be, maybe orienteering. No, that'd be Mike as well. And I would.
You'd be our morale.
I would be our morale booster. So
that's basically, Mike, you have to do everything for us and put us.
Actually, Mike would probably have to be the morale booster because I'd be pretty fucking miserable.
Sure, you would be.
I'll have to get back to you guys on this.
You know what? You're really good at, Crofton? You're good at PR. You can be our public relations guy, get us our sponsors, hook us up with our clothes, get the word out about us doing the race.
Yeah, just like the advertising I do on the show.
You do such a great job with good, bad, or bullshit and exclamation mark. You're shoo-in for this position.
All right. I think I'm ready to go here, guys. I don't have much more to add on adventure racing, mostly considering I have never done one. So.
All right. Well, here they come.
Order, I say. Order in the court.
Order in the court. Let's do verdicts.
All right, I'll start us off. As the whole time walking through this, I was like, "Oh, these are clearly bullshit," is what I was thinking. But now that I've kind of thought about it, I'm just going to settle on adventure racing, Spartan racing, Tough Mudder, all those things. I'm going to say are good. And I can, I'm thinking back to when I was younger and really into this kind of stuff, and I would have liked the racing component and the outdoorsy aspect of some of this stuff. And my brother-in-law did one, I think last year here in Ottawa when he was in town, and he really enjoyed himself. And I'm maybe not as into it and think they're kind of a weird fad in some ways. It's just my personal opinion. The bottom line is people have a good time doing them. They don't hurt anyone. They challenge people to overcome their own personal limits and these physical ones set up by the race. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. Sounds good to me. To each their own. If someone likes crawling in the mud and racing someone do that, more power to them. And I think not for me, but it's good that they exist. So I'm just gonna simple one for me. This one.
All right, I can go next.
Sure, go next because who's the host this week?
I'm
Mike?
the host. So we'll add some audio variety by spacing it up.
That's
All right.
correct.
So I don't got much with this adventure racing. I'm very like, about, I think adventures are cool. Racing, I guess, is okay. The teamwork thing kind of made me feel like, I could get behind this thing, but when I hear the words adventure racing, I just feel like it just seems stupid to me. So I'm gonna actually give it bullshit. And just sort of dwell in its corner of not liking it. Basically, I'm sure I want to respect the people who are into this thing because it's not like they're hurting anybody. They're having a nice pastime, but I just think it's kind of boring and dumb. So I'm gonna give it bullshit. I'm done.
I don't think boring is a term that people would often use to describe adventure racing when they're doing it.
It looks boring. Looks boring.
See, and this is what's interesting because it's like, this is fun. I get to comment on your verdicts before I do my verdicts. Mike, I had sort of called saying bullshit on this, and he did. And I think he turned for the right because I think that fitting in with what he likes and his values and stuff like that makes sense that he would say it's good. Bo also is funny, saying it's bullshit does not surprise me at all because Bo has no interest in adventure racing, nor has ever been, nor is in the physical shape of his own admission to be able to do it. So why not say, this thing's crappy? But I feel like when we get these topics on the show that I have zero interest in doing, but I've never done, because we did camping, and if I probably said camping was bullshit. That feels like something I would have said. I've done a lot of camping. And I can sort of feel like I can say camping is bullshit. Adventure racing, on the other hand, I've never done, nor do I have any interest to do. So technically, you think I'd be on the Bo bandwagon, and I'd be like, this is a bullshit thing. But really, it's not necessarily for me. It's for other people, and people who are into like being in super amazing shape, or in the case of the mud or whatever, or people who are into challenging their personal best or their buddies or whatever. And so for those people, I'm glad it exists. And Mike says like it didn't cause any harm, and I'm sure there are people that get injured doing it all the time. And I talked about injuries when we talked about surfing. And I was thinking about this one, but I really don't think there's enough injuries there to drag it into the negative. So I think I'm going to lean Mike's way and say, because of all the camaraderie, because of the fact that it's there for the people that are interested in it, it's a neat activity. It's very. I was thinking Mike mentioned his in-laws. There's a city chase in Ottawa, which is sort of like a giant scavenger hunt type adventure race that always it looks like fun for those who are into it. So I mean, I'm going to say that adventure racing is good.
While you were delivering your verdict, we went to the play-by-play booth to get an official call from the referees. And they confirm your ranking of a verdict of bullshit on camping.
Camping? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny how I just assumed that was my verdict. I'm like, that sounds like something I'd say.
And also conversely funny is that I said camping was good, but I, somehow just very dour on
you brought up the distinction between the race component, right? So camping, you can just sit on your ass in the woods, but I was just going to say, Brofton brought off the city chase thing. I'm like, Bo, you can do that because you can take the city bus and stuff when you do that. But then I remembered it involves leaving your house, so then you might not want to actually do it.
I've done Amazing Race, like corporate stuff where you go around downtown.
Corporate stuff? What is that?
Go around no, it's team building, and you go around downtown Ottawa and look up Sir John A. Macdonald shit and whatever. You go around town and do things.
It's the Amazing Race Corporate Edition. How many
HR hire someone in the next 3 months? Find out.
How many credit cards can you apply for in the next half an hour? Brought to you by American Express.
All right. I'm reining this in.
Paul has to stay on hold on the phone for 8 hours straight. Will he make it?
Oh, what's that sound? I haven't heard that for a while. We got mail.
Oh my god.
We have a piece of mail. All right, this week's letter of the week.
I mean, letter of the year.
It's a letter of the year. It's an email we got from listener Al, also a good friend of the show. Used to work with
hello, Al.
Hey, Al.
Al. So Al wanted to write in
We
on this.
still hate golf, Al.
All right. He actually wrote in on the subject of award shows, and his email's called "Award Shows Stank." So, hello, gentlemen and Bo. Hey,
Well said.
screw you, Al. Just wanted to share in the award show hate. I think they're absolute horseshit. I can still recall the last time I watched one. I remember having seen Requiem for a Dream with a buddy of mine and leaving the theater in shock. We didn't speak for like 10 minutes. Ellen Burstyn's performance was that good. When I found out she was being nominated for an Academy Award for her role, I got super excited. Now, Ellen Burstyn's the older lady in that movie, in case you're trying to picture
I've never
her.
watched it. It looked too disturbing for me.
It's pretty disturbing. Finally, so in quotations, he's saying, finally, someone worthy of being recognized for their beautiful performance, I thought. Boy, was I wrong. The award for Best Actress went to Julia Roberts and Erin Brockovich. Feel free to play a bad soundbite here, and we're going to do that. That's...
Super high tax.
All right, and anyway, just wanted to share that anecdote. Still enjoying the show. Keep up the good work. P.S. If you haven't seen Requiem for a Dream, I highly recommend it. It's very dark, but an amazing movie. Actually, we don't like endorsing things that we're not getting paid for, so...
I don't like movies that are uncomfortable.
It's a good movie. I remember seeing the movie and be like, God, Jesus. It's heavy. It's one of those ones you want to show to your kids to scare them into doing drugs.
Yeah, it's pretty like... It's got the... Have you seen Trainspotting, Cross?
It's a kid friendly movie then. That's good.
Have you seen Trainspotting?
Yeah, I've seen
It's
Trainspotting.
It's like, it's not the preachy don't do drugs because this will happen. It celebrates the drug culture by like swimming in the shit of it, which is like...
Requiem for a Dream?
Yeah, because...
No, you're thinking Trainspotting is more like that.
Trainspotting is like that, but Requiem for a Dream's like that too. You watch that and you're like, man, fuck, drugs are bullshit.
I don't know. It was a heavy movie. I mean, it's a good recommendation that it's a good movie, but Trainspotting is a much more fun watch.
But I think I've derailed it. The point is that you thought award shows...
I blame Al.
Look, hey man, I'm owning up to my derelation.
Al's right. Award shows suck. If you disagree, challenge us.
Wait, did I?
Listen,
no, I said they were bullshit.
I have to chime in a little bit here because it's
Here
true.
we go.
In the Slack chat for the Frog Pants community that we do with the podcast, this came up. Someone was talking about award shows, and I'm like, I hate award shows, and I was vibing off of our conversation about award shows, and then someone was like, well, what about the podcast awards? And I was like, we are somehow involved. We could end up being nominated for a podcast award, and so,
you'd be so happy too.
Yeah, I'd kind of like. Well, I don't know which of my shows would win.
The one with listeners.
Well, it could be any one of these, to be honest. You never know what's going to happen in the future.
Podcasting award, I'd pull a Marlon Brando.
What, and bring a First Nations person and say, like, the slaughter
to reject the award.
Yes. I saw that when I was looking up. I settled on Jack Palance as the mascot for our award show. But that was a close runner-up. I watched that several times.
Marlon Brando was pretty cool.
You just like him because he was like being an asshole. I'm not.
No, because he was like this.
I can't accept it. But he's a movie star. He spent. You hate actors for this. You can't endorse this because he's an actor. He could actually go and help people. Instead, he's like,
okay,
I'm gonna make a movie and censorship.
If you want to follow,
all right, hang on.
This show,
stop it. All right, listen. If you got something you want to say about award shows, Marlon Brando, or how Mike and Crofton like to put me in a pigeonhole and I gotta fight my way out like a wet paper bag, just punching. You can endorse me by writing to us at our email address, goodbadbull@gmail.com. We'd love to read your stuff on the show. If you want to record an MP3 audio and like so we can play it on the air, that's even better. Do it, please. If this is your first time listening to the show and you made it this far, and you want to find out how you can get more, visit our website, goodbadbull.com, and there you'll find links to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or your RSS catcher. And if you have a suggestion on where you'd like to see the podcast, be sure to drop us a line and let us know. Finally, you can follow us on Twitter at goodbadbull. You can like us on Facebook, and we have a subreddit. Go get that started, because there we can have conversations offline about the topics we've talked about here, and Reddit is a great place for that kind of thing. Finally, I'd like to tell you a little bit about where you can find us. You can find me at Bo Schwartz, but Crofton, if our listeners want to find out more about you, what you're up to, the other things that you do, where can they do that?
They can find me racing into the Twitterverse at Crofton Steers on Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, I give that an 8. Michael, if our listeners want to find out more about what you're up to, where can they find you?
And the award for most convoluted tirade outro for a podcast host goes to Mr. Bo Schwartz. Adam Hodgins. You can follow me. I was just saying Bo might win an award for best outro.
I'll tell you.
You know what's funny is that when he delivered
there was
his
a part where our listeners can't see where Bo's arms were in the air, flailing above him while he yelled about something.
When he delivered his verdict, it was so short and to the point. I'm like, who is this man? And then, of course, he reminded me.
He's like, I didn't go on a tirade, nonsensical, meandering tirade yet.
Look, it was a good email. Al, thank you for the email. It provoked conversation within us. All I wanted to do was highlight hypocrisy that Michael had about, like, Marlon Brando's amazing, and then I'm like, he's an actor. He just acts all day.
I blame you, Al.
Yeah. I mean, Crofton actually helps, people. Mike actually helps people. What does Marlon Brando do? I don't really help people. Oh, I help people. I help you get through your day at work when you listen to our show. So yeah, thanks for listening, listeners. And I don't know. I'd take a pass.
Follow him at Bo Schwartz on Twitter.
I'd take a. Yeah, I got mine out of the way first, so I could
What a cheap bastard.
Fill time otherwise, but if someone invites you on adventure racing, I'd take a pass. Just my personal recommendation.
I don't know.
I probably would too at this point. I'd be like, yeah, let's just go camping instead.
Might be an adventure.
We'll do a little more chill.
But if Gandalf visits you, you should help that guy.
Yeah, but Gandalf probably would be more into camping. He's just got, there's too much stuff going on.
When you think about it now, like, I appreciate Bilbo's predicament much more than I did previously, because I'm comfortable now.
Yeah, you're like Bilbo.
Got a nice house.
It's like, why? But I'm so comfortable.
Yeah, I know.
I'm having second breakfast right now.
I'm like, hey, Bilbo, hey, Gandalf, you want to watch some Netflix? Maybe play some Rocket League? He's like, no, I want to take you out on an adventure to save the world. I'm like, I don't know, man. I really would like to get to bed early tonight.
The steers are particular creatures, but, they've got a lot of heart.
I think I would be a hobbit.
Yeah, you'd make a good hobbit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Would make like a good.
I'd make a good.
Always a hobbit for sure.
I'd be definitely hanging out with the elves, making love to elves.
No, you wouldn't be. I was gonna say like a troll under a bridge.
No way! I'm totally Aragorn, man. I'm totally brooding.
I think he would be a hobbit for sure. Think about it. Instead of vaping, he would do that buckweed thing.
Screw you guys.
He'd be a buckwheat addict.
Yeah, that's true.
Screw you
would
guys.
just be a man.
I probably would be. Short life.
Yeah, you're like
likely to die.
Yeah, that's what you'd be.
Yeah,
not one of us would be an elf.
I look kind of like an elf right now. Look, check it out. I could be Legolas.
I give that a 4.
Look, I got long hair.
You only got a 4.
And the award for worst outro ever goes to...
Yes, I knew I had a shot at it.
You had it in the bag. All right.
That's great. Perfect.
Awards. They always look us over on this show.
All right, before my compatriots start saying inappropriate things on the air that they don't want to, we're going to end the live stream. So thanks very much if you watched, and if you're watching the VOD, thanks for hanging out. It's fun doing this thing.
No, there's nobody there.
Shh, Mr. Negative. And we're going to go watch the Video Game Awards. So toodaloo.
You are? God.
It's funny because I probably am. I really want The Witcher 3 to clean up. Oh!
Yeah.
If you guys are actually going to watch something like that, I pity for the both of you.
Well,